You're listening to a Whales Are Whales production.
You're also listening to Whales.
Visit whalesorewhales.com for more projects and shows like this one.
Greetings.
Hello, welcome to Hearthaholics, the Hearthstone podcast about sitting back, chatting with friends, and making terrible puns. This is episode 25, and I am your host, Bryan, and joining me today is Andres. Hey, Andres, how you doing?
Hey, Bryan, how's it going?
Pretty well. Observant listeners might notice that Billy is not here because I did not introduce him. And also because he had scheduling conflicts and couldn't make it. So because of that, and also us being super busy and not having much time for Hearthstone this last week, and kind of working out a bunch of content that we're going to need Billy here to be able to do, this is going to be kind of a vacation episode for us. We're just going to do a quick check-in, discuss one little topic we had here, and leave you guys basically with the message that you should definitely join us next week when we're back full force. But this is just going to be a little bonus or bite-sized episode because we didn't want to put nothing out. But, yeah, we didn't really have the time or the manpower this week to put together a full episode.
That's right. It's been a busy week for all of us, and Billy, unfortunately, wasn't able to make it over here. Right. So we just want to say hello, check in with you guys, and next week we'll definitely be back with a full-fledged episode, but this is going to be the first Hearthaholics vacation since we started this episode.
Exactly. Like I said to Andres before the show, we'll one out of every 25 episodes, we might, take a little break. Plus, one could argue that we had like 33% more episode last week with Noxious on. So.
That is true. That was a long episode. I encourage everyone to check it out. Quite an interesting episode.
And we had 4 people instead of 3. So look at all that extra podcasting you got. So yeah, just spend the time playing even more Hearthstone until we can join you, fully next week. But We're here now. So let's talk about a few things here, Andres. How have the game nights you've been doing for the Angry Chicken on Monday been going for you?
They've been going pretty well. Pretty good turnout. We're starting a little bit earlier. I feel like some people still getting used to a little earlier startup because people start showing up normally at the time of the regular hangout.
Right.
But aside from that, it's been super awesome. We've been playing competitive decks. Some little rivalries are kind of starting to appear because some of the people who come over kind of win a lot of the time.
All right.
But it's been varied. Like Joseph, one of the people who come, he's really good, and he usually goes on a streak. But lately, it's been a couple of other people who went on a streak. Vincent went on one last time, and I think Jamie was the one who went on another one.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's a bunch of cool people playing, a lot of like good deck talk. It's a good place to show how you play a deck, and really cool people who are also good at the game to tell you what they think you're doing wrong, or if they think you're doing good. Also, It's a good place to show off your skills. If you're a good player, come over and show us what you can do.
Yeah, see, this is why I stay away from the Monday nights. But no, really, I would like to make it there sometime because things on Wednesday night have been very different because that's when Tavern Brawl opens. So, yeah, the Wednesday night game nights have just been absurd. Did you see what this most recent Tavern Brawl was?
No, I haven't seen it. What is it?
It's really interesting. So if you are behind by more than 3 health, so if you're like at 24 health and your opponent's at 28 health, at the beginning of your turn, you summon a minion who costs between 2 or 3 mana, like a random minion.
So basically, super interesting.
Whoever's behind in life total gets free minions until things kind of even out again. So it's this like really weird strategy where you're like, you don't want to attack your opponent, and so you'll just kind of be staring at him and not attacking because you don't want to get his life.
What if you damage yourself? Can you summon?
Yep. So warlocks are OP. Warlocks are OP as hellfire in that mode. So that's very, very dangerous. We pretty much had to outlaw warlocks, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of really insane moments. The MVP for my side, because we were doing Call v Call as usual. The MVP for my call of people was Lorewalker Cho, who kept appearing randomly on our opponent's side, and they couldn't do anything about him, and they had like hands full of spells.
That's awesome.
We were facing like this mage, like a kind of freeze giant hybrid mage who could do nothing because they got a Lorewalker Cho on their
That is
field.
fantastic.
They ended up having to like use Nefarian to get Shadow Word Pain and playing that Shadow Word Pain on Lorewalker Cho. And then we got a Shadow Word Pain and we killed our own zombie Chow when Akanai Soul Priest was out. And yeah, it was kind of ridiculous.
Sounds like some crazy stuff happening over there.
Yeah, it was insane as usual.
That's cool.
If you want insane like random hijinks, we eventually started playing random decks in the Tavern Brawl. So yeah, it was very fun. I'm glad Monday night has been giving a home for the more strategic or competitive play, and additionally for the Eastern time zone people who always had to leave so early, like Vincent.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like super, super competitive where
Right.
everyone's like bringing Patron Warrior and trying to like win over everyone else. No, it's not like that. Like last Monday, we had a pretty cool little round of a few people who decided to make a deck that was not completely terrible, but maybe like an offbeat kind of style deck.
Sure.
Like Eon was bringing a shaman, a Maligos shaman, and trying to make that work.
Oh yeah.
And I was trying to work with a spell power mage, that the one that I was kind of talking a while ago.
Oh,
with,
does it run Arcane Blast?
It does. It had one Arcane Blast, and it had the Dalaran Aspirants, the ones that gain +1 spell power every time you inspire.
Yeah.
And that guy actually worked in like one of the games. I got him to like +3 spell power, and then I was running one of the. What's the name of the new mage card that deals 2 damage for 1 mana, but doubles the
Arcane Blast.
Arcane Blast, right?
That's the one we were talking about. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one. I was running one copy of that one. I remember they play a Ysera in one turn. I just Arcane Blasted a Ysera for 1 mana.
It's like a better Flame Lance. That's amazing.
Yeah.
A much better Flame Lance.
Much better. 1 mana Flame Lance.
Yeah.
It dealt like 10 damage or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I really hope to make it to one of the Monday ones again. For anyone who hasn't like had us explain these before, we're talking about the game nights we're doing for The Angry Chicken, which is a fellow Hearthstone podcast. You might have heard of them. Pretty popular. And you can head over to their subreddit /TAC podcast, and we post there every week about the Monday night one at 6:30 Central Daily Time and the Wednesday night one at 8 Central Daily Time. So
that's
definitely check that out.
Yeah, if you guys are looking for a place to meet other people and hang out playing Hearthstone, definitely that's the place.
Yep, and I host the Wednesday ones, and Andres hosts the Monday ones, but there's also a crossover there, and Billy pops up whenever he has time. So yeah, it's good times all around. So for our topics this week, we're not going to go through our usual bout, since like we said, we've been super busy and not had too much time to explore the world of Hearthstone recently. But I did have one Hearthstone-related topic I thought we could chat about for a few minutes, which is the idea of what other strategy games have you enjoyed over time before coming to Hearthstone, and how do you find they compare? And I'm not talking here just about like trading card strategy games. They could be real-time strategy games like Warcraft or StarCraft. They could be chess, like board games. Really anything strategy-related. Like what did you play before Hearthstone, and kind of what are your favorites from the world of strategy? So Andres, go ahead and start us off here.
Sure. Strategy games that I have played before and got into them. When I was a kid, I used to play a lot of chess with my uncle. I guess that was like one of the first strategy ones that I really got into, because he was like a really good chess player. He had been like regional champion when he was younger or something like that.
Nice.
So I used to play against him and I could never win, but I always wanted to play against him because I wanted to beat him at least one time.
I had a very similar childhood. Yep.
Yeah, so I just would play and play and play and like would never win until one time I finally beat him out, like after I was like 14 years old or something like that.
Nice.
It was one of the most satisfying feelings in my life.
You need to challenge him to Hearthstone.
The one thing that he always did, and like up to this day, I really appreciate, and like whenever I play against another person, this really makes me respect them, and is that he never let me win.
Yep.
He would always like play the best that he could against me. And like that day that I won, it meant so much just because of that.
Mm-hmm. That's something I strive to do when introducing new players to Hearthstone. It's something I'm not always great about is I feel bad for them and sometimes I'll just kind of, goof off. But at least when playing like competitively, it is a lot more rewarding when the person is playing their best. Because otherwise, the challenge
absolutely.
is gone.
If not winning doesn't mean anything. If the other person lets you win, then winning doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. It's funny you mentioned that because my introduction to strategy was exactly the same way. When I was young, I didn't like play strategy stuff from a super young age, but my dad was a huge chess player. He was like doing chess club in college and all sorts of stuff growing up. So he played against me from a pretty early age. And he would always offer my brother and I, if we could beat him, we would get $100. And we were I was like 7. So that was a ton of money at the time.
That's like $1 million back then.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a ludicrous amount. And I could never, ever beat him. I've still never beaten him. I haven't actually faced him in a really long time. I should do so.
That's very cool. He gave you a really nice incentive. Knowing that you would never get it.
He was very confident that he would keep that $100. But I kind of want to face him now and then just say greetings, greetings, greetings the whole time. He won't get it. But.
You should do the same now, but with Hearthstone. Be like, Dad.
I know.
If you beat me at Hearthstone, I'll buy you a house or something like that.
That actually would be great. I don't think the problem with Hearthstone is there's too much random luck. He could do it. Just by playing the odds.
That is true, yeah.
The chess is a renowned game.
In chess, you can be more confident in your strategy, yeah.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, you're probably going to win.
Yeah, you could technically literally memorize every possible game of chess. Which,
that's true, yeah.
Is a scary idea.
Yeah, which
one reason
some of
it's
the best
so hard
players
to play.
do, yeah. Or
that's
some people argue that is why it's not as hard to play, though.
That I absolutely agree with you. I think that I was about to bring that up. That's probably the biggest difference people would immediately say between chess and Hearthstone is one has random chance and one doesn't. And early on, I just subscribed to the fact that random chance just makes a game worse because, less strategic. And that's kind of what my dad always said about chess is you play Monopoly, it's less strategic than chess because it's random. Random games that have random elements aren't actually that strategic. But over time, I found stuff like Magic and Hearthstone that I think marries strategy and luck really, really well.
Absolutely. In fact, you'd be surprised because some of the best players in chess have been proponents of adding some randomization to the game.
I imagine that would help keep it fresh.
Starting pieces, change some of the positions of the starting pieces to be random in the beginning.
Right.
Because you're right. If you don't randomize it, at one point it becomes a game of memorization.
Yeah.
Maybe when you haven't played it enough and you haven't thought about every play.
Right.
It's a game where you have to analyze every play on the fly, kind of like Hearthstone. But once you've been playing chess long enough, you have pretty much been in every situation, almost every situation, unless for very rare ones.
Mm-hmm. It becomes a game of, formulas and openings and comparing and contrasting and hiding your intentions.
Exactly, and a game of memory, most of all.
And that's what's really fun about Hearthstone is that it has the strategic elements of chess of, analyzing a board and making a strategic move based on it. But it also has the bluffing and predictive elements of poker, which is a completely different world of strategy, which is what do they have in their hand? What can I glean from it? How they've been playing? What could they play next turn, etc. So it makes it a lot more
and even more so that you formulate all these strategies in your head and you craft and you nail all the percentages and you're okay, I have my plan. And then you kill a shredder and this guy comes out of it that completely destroys your plan. And now all of your percentages are screwed. And now the lethal you're counting doesn't exist anymore. And you have completely to reformulate your strategy right there on the fly, which is kind of what, in my opinion, makes the random element be a bigger skill ceiling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get it.
That was a really complicated way of saying that.
Well, what it basically does is it adds the number of possible factors and the complexity to the game that chess doesn't have. The only time you can be caught by surprise in chess is by your own failing. That's the nice thing about Hearthstone is no matter how good you get at the game, you can still be caught off balance and have to react to something you couldn't have necessarily predicted.
Exactly.
You could see it as a potential option, but you couldn't guarantee it as something that would happen. So, yeah, I really appreciate that about it. So, After chess, was there any other game you gravitated towards? I mean, I know you had a history with Magic.
Yeah, aside from the obvious Magic, and I did a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, but like I wouldn't consider myself like a Yu-Gi-Oh player because
it was Pokemon.
I just played like super casually with my friends like a couple times and that was it.
Yep.
But I play a lot of like strategy games, like real-time strategy games used to be really big with me. Back in
which of those did you play?
I started with playing Age of Empires.
Okay.
Which was like a really old 90s game. Some people still play it.
Totally.
Yeah, but it was like the medieval kind of times. The first one, it was kind of like you would start from the Stone Age and evolve into like, Roman times and Vikings and like all this cool stuff. And it was kind of like the precursor to StarCraft and all this stuff. And then, or I don't know if the precursor, maybe StarCraft came out around the same time. But is the one that I started out with.
Yeah, I'm looking up actually now. I was really curious when the first Age of Empires came out because StarCraft was 98.
98? Okay, so I think Age of Empires might have been a little before.
It was 97. So it was like, basically they were peers. Interestingly, I think what kind of started the real-time strategy was the Dune video game. Or it was like super influential, like based on the Dune book series.
I think you're right. Yeah,
that was like in '92.
Yeah, they were kind of like picking up around that time, basically.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, it wasn't around for too long when those two hit. And yeah, for me, it was interesting. It wasn't Age of Empires that got me into the genre, but it was Galactic Battlegrounds, which was a Star Wars themed Age of Empires that came out.
Nice.
In 2002 or something. And I didn't ever get remotely good at that game. I just found it fun to see a bunch of Star Wars things shooting each other. And then I had a level creator in it, and I basically like created little RPG adventures with the engine. I wasn't very strategically minded at that point. I was more interested in telling stories.
You're a storyteller, nice.
Yeah, than playing the tactics.
I remember, it was Age of Empires for me, and then I touched StarCraft a little bit. And it was okay. I liked those games, but it wasn't until Warcraft 3 came out that I was like, all right, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. And
so did you get into like the online for that?
Yeah, I used to play the ladder, and mostly as I've ladder around my town at that time, there was this place where everyone would gather, and it was kind of like one of those like internet cafes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we would all play there, and Warcraft was one of the most popular games in that place, so we would all play the old Warcraft, and then eventually that became into playing Dota, like the original Dota that came out, the mod, Warcraft mod. So we would play that like all day, and I got pretty good at Warcraft. Not like pro level good, but I was like, above average in the ladder, which was pretty good at that time. Like I was already considering myself a pretty good player, but like top players were just insane, like way too much. Kind of like it is now in StarCraft.
You talk about a skill ceiling in games. The skill ceiling in real-time strategy games is like phenomenally high.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only is it bringing, it doesn't necessarily have too many random elements, which is interesting, but what it brings in is, in the name, the real-time elements. And that's something that Hearthstone doesn't have. And it's something I've done a lot of thinking about in how different it is to play a game like StarCraft than a turn-based game. Like, it's practically like the skills you need in a shooter to play one of those games.
Yeah, I've tried playing StarCraft like lately a couple of times, but that game just stresses me out. I enjoy it, and I'm not terrible at it. I think I still have some of the skills and like the macro kind of thing to do it. Obviously, very rusty, but it just feels like after I finish a match, my heart is pounding and my hands are kind of shaking a little bit, even though I won. And I'll be like, I can't play this game. It's just detrimental for my health.
That's the funny thing about, StarCraft for one thing, so crazy stressful. I played a lot of 2v2 with a friend. StarCraft 2 is actually where I started, and played a ton of 2v2 and ladder. We got fairly good at that. We eventually got in the Gold League. But it was like every game was just like a huge stressor. Like it's just like your heart's pounding, you're holding your breath waiting for it to start.
You can't relax while playing that game.
No, relaxing kills you. It's like you relax for a second, it's like, wait, did you build stealth defense? No. Oh, that's a Dark Templar. Well, we're literally dead.
Oh, I know. And like you have your massive army and you start mobilizing it out. The second you mobilize it out, the guy attacks from behind and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, the whole time.
You forgot to build a turret right there and you're like,
I mean, imagine if Hearthstone played except whoever played their cards first just got to play them. Like, if Hearthstone, like, the mana was just ticking up, like, 1 mana every 2 seconds, and you just had to play cards as you got mana, like, it would be a completely different game with a completely different skill set.
Yeah, although it would be more like if you were running 9 Hearthstone games at a time, and you just had to be, like, really fast in all of them.
And they had, like, 10-second turn timers.
Yeah, 10-second turn timers, and...
So sometimes you would just skip turns, because that's the thing about StarCraft. You will just leave resources untapped, things that you should objectively be doing, you just won't be because you're not fast enough.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what the top players are, right? They're just able to squeeze in a lot more actions in the same amount of time.
And that's what I realized was interesting about StarCraft, is even though it has like way more strategic decisions you can be making at a given time than Hearthstone, the baseline of creating a basic economy, keeping workers going, and pumping units out is so important that if you're not doing that to basic to max efficiency, the other strategic things don't even really matter.
Yeah.
Like activating stims on your Marines at the right time, unless you're already doing really good base building and managing your workers really well, you shouldn't even be bothering with that. And as I looked more into like the learning StarCraft more competitively, I realized it's kind of like, I go back to this analogy a lot, but like learning an instrument and that sort of thing, and that you have to like get that basic science down where you know it before you can start working on other strategies, as opposed to Hearthstone, where you can understand basically every strategy about a turn and make the quote unquote perfect play right out of the get-go. Because, you're able to use every strategic element without having to, get that huge, like, physical skill base down.
Yeah,
first.
for sure. In that type of games, you have to... I remember when I used to practice Warcraft 3, I would sit down and for hours, I would just practice base building.
Right.
So I would just queue up games, not on the ladder, but like it would either be against friends or against the computer and stuff like that.
Totally.
And basically what I would do would be practicing building my base in the most efficient way, and just pumping out units and buildings at the right times. Because basically you use the clock in those games as your guide. So at like 30 seconds, you already have to have this and this built. That at a minute, you have to have this and this and that. That by a minute and a half, you have to have this builds. Upgrade queued up and like this thing done. So basically, the way you practice that is, you just do it over and over and over, and you have to practice like your building position and all that stuff. And once you have that down and it becomes like second nature, you can really start practicing on your macro and like controlling your army and doing all these different like strategic things, because at least your base is solid.
Yeah, there are fundamentals you just absolutely can't skip out on in an RTS. And I remember the base building. I would literally like have a text document up on my second monitor as I was playing StarCraft. I would have every building and the time I needed it done by and the order I needed to build them in, because like if you forget one mineral refinery, you're like behind on everything else.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because your whole plan is thrown off kilter.
Yeah, and it really matters a lot in the beginning of the game. Like later on, once you start expanding, your economy gets going, like you can slack off a little bit. Yeah. But I would say, the first like 10 minutes are so crucial in those games.
And like if you get it wrong, you can get rushed completely and destroyed in those first few minutes.
That's the most stressful part, when you're getting rushed. You're trying to like do your thing while defending.
Like that's, I think, one reason that Face Hunter has never annoyed me that much in Hearthstone. Because, like, if you're annoyed with Face Hunter, try playing a strategy game, a real-time strategy game, and getting rushed.
Imagine try defending against Zerg Rush against a player who knows how to do it.
Exactly. Like, imagine taking Face Hunter, feeling 10 times more helpless, and then having the pressure of doing everything in real time. Like,
and then knowing that you can't blame it on RNG.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the worst. It is so much worse than Face Hunter that it's just like, I don't think I can get frustrated by Face Hunter very much because StarCraft is too frustrating. But I say that as a player who rushed almost exclusively. So I was that horrible player in StarCraft. I didn't know how to play mid-game, so I just played rush over and over again, and it went okay.
Hey man, that's just knowing your weaknesses.
It's one reason I did like Warcraft 3. It was a much slower game than StarCraft. And
I do miss that. Like, I like StarCraft, but it's just a little too fast-paced. It seems like if you... 1 second you're looking at your army and they're fighting, and you look away for 2 seconds and they're gone.
I really appreciate how much Warcraft 3 limited the army size. Like with the heroes and, a handful of units, it was much easier to manage them and, get into those micro strategies.
Yeah,
because you didn't
micro
have
was super
such-
important in Warcraft
Yeah.
3 because each unit was like super valuable, especially once you made like your bigger units. Like you definitely
Right.
didn't want to lose them, and there were ways to like save him and stuff. I remember that with your heroes, you could buy this like unit portals,
Mhm.
and I would play elves all the time. And when
Oh,
your
yeah.
big
Me too.
bears were about to die, you could teleport him back to base real quick.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the town portals and stuff. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
playing elves, and like my early game was always like getting a demon hunter and like 3 or 4 archers. and
Yeah,
they're
the
just
demon
going out
hunter
and
was the
killing creeps.
best.
Yeah,
And,
and
like,
doing this little immolating fire thing and killing all the creeps.
Yeah,
with
and
it.
I remember in the middle of the fight, like one of the main mechanics that made players like really good was like paying attention to the fight, and the units that were about to die, they would pull him back and kind of save him, or
Right.
like the druid bears, you would pull him back and transform him back into their druid form and heal him,
Yeah.
and then like bring him back in. So
yeah,
it was like
yeah.
like
there was
the-
a lot of micro you could do.
yeah, the fight itself would last a lot longer, and there was a lot of like mini things that you could do in the fight to like tilt the balance in your favor. And I really like that. Now in StarCraft, you can still do those things. You know, you still have like
Mhm.
Steam packs, and you have
Yeah.
the
Siege tanks that
medics
you
and
can
siege
set up, and-
tanks, and
yeah.
you, with Protoss, you have the force fields that you can put down, and or the arcane storms, or how do you call this?
Psy storms.
Psi storms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that something
So
else interesting.
there is,
Oh,
but
go
it's
ahead.
just I don't know, just way too much, way faster.
Yeah, StarCraft is. I recently made the decision of I'll play through the campaign, but I don't think I have the time or the energy to get back into that competitively.
Yeah,
Something interesting, as people may have picked up, a big difference in StarCraft and Hearthstone is like the micro and macro difference. And for people who haven't heard those terms before, like micro is the idea of like directly controlling your units, while macro is the idea of keeping track of your base building and the idea of your general amount of units and how your base is doing and the amount of resources you're getting in. And that's kind of an interesting difference because Hearthstone, you're only staring at one thing pretty much the whole time. You're not managing like a micro and a macro in the same sense. If you were to make a comparison, I'd probably say it's like the deck building, which you do in a completely different stage, and then you play the game, which is pretty much all micro. Hearthstone isn't splitting your attention like real-time strategy games.
although that's a good way of comparing it. Yeah, your macro in Hearthstone is thinking about the meta game and what
Right.
your opponents are gonna be bringing, how you're gonna take out your deck, kind of like how you're thinking in StarCraft. You know, what upgrades does your army need to
Exactly.
combat your opponent's army? So you're
The
thinking about all
mulligan
that.
phase is kind of macro as well.
Yeah, mulligan phase is kind of macro-ish too. And then once you're in the game, yeah, it's all micro. You know, managing the mini decisions that will take you to victory.
Yeah, and I think that's the difficult thing about StarCraft is it's happening in such rapid succession that you kind of think you have to do everything at once. Well, in Hearthstone, you can very much move from one thing to the other and have time for it. I've heard someone describe that in StarCraft, a problem people fall into is they try to do everything at once. And the person said, what you have to do is you have to focus completely on one thing, but be able to switch between things very rapidly. So you have to be 100% focused on the fight and then 100% focused on your base. And it's very hard to get your mind trained to switch between things that quickly.
Especially after you finish the fight, you're kind of like still lingering, see who he got scattered, who you can like bring back. Right. And then last thing you know, you're looking at your resource and you have like 1,000 crystals like backed up and stuff.
So one last genre that I think kind of, I would say, in a way merges the two, or is at least a less stressful RTS, is what if you thought about like MOBAs and how much time have you put into those as a strategy game?
I really like MOBAs. I think there's a lot of strategy MOBAs, although it's more about team strategy than, individual strategy. But I sank a lot of hours into Dota, the original one, in Warcraft 3. It was probably one of my favorite games of all time. I played that game so much, and I enjoyed every second of it, even though, games were an hour long, and there was no, like, reconnect. People would leave and, like, just ruin your game. It was different times, it was like the start of this kind of genre. But I really liked it. And then after that, I never really played Dota 2 or League of Legends, mainly because during that time I didn't own a good computer. So I never got into like that sort of thing.
You remember you couldn't play Heroes at first because your computer was
Yeah, I
just
couldn't even
so
play Heroes.
terrible.
And now that I got a good computer, I got back into Heroes and stuff. But I never got back into Dota and League of Legends. Just because I know exactly how that game is, because I used to play the old Dota. And honestly, I'm more interested in Heroes right now.
Yeah. What do you think about Heroes? Like, have you gotten very much into the strategy of that? Is it more of an action game for you, or?
I like that it's a team game. I like playing it with friends, definitely. I haven't gotten like super in depth into the game where the point where I'm like reading about team combinations and trying to like get the optimal team and stuff like that. I've been taking more lighthearted, just playing with friends, enjoying it. I don't know. I haven't really gotten like super competitive with it. It's just like one of those games that I jump in for fun now.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I read like a few guides for my hero, but that's kind of just to get a better idea of like what talents to pick. Since I've been more competitive with Hearthstone, I haven't played it consistently enough yet to really get good at it. But I really enjoy like the management of the map that it has. It reminds me a little bit of the kind of strategy you'll be doing in StarCraft, but it's like limited in an amount that it's much easier to feel your decision. You're making the correct decisions, like when to take merc camps and which lanes to be pushing. Like, it's a really fun type of strategy. It's just much more approachable.
It's definitely much more approachable. You don't have to keep track of so many things, but the best players are definitely keeping track of a lot of things.
There are so many elements. Also, interestingly, no RNG in that game. I'm trying to think if there's any RNG.
I guess there's a little bit of RNG, but not in the sense of like
negligible. Yeah,
it's more in the sense of like sometimes like a mercamp will attack you in the middle of the lane, or somebody misses a spell and hits something else accidentally that was supposed to get hit, like that sort of thing, right? Like, I think the RNG in that game comes from error.
Yeah, it's more chaotic, but it's not necessarily like RNG itself.
Yeah,
like,
it's
even
not
the
like in
objectives are
Hearthstone where like, it's not like a spell does 100 or 300 damage, right?
That'd be frustrating.
No, there's not that kind of RNG, but it's like what you say, chaos RNG of like a lot of things happening at one time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's kind of, I think, where StarCraft gets out of like the chess problem, where like there are so many things happening that even though there's no RNG, chaos will still ensue. Like, you can't possibly predict everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So
or account for everything, yeah.
Yeah, because your opponent can do so many different strategies and build so many different things, you're still going to run into situations you can't predict. And that kind of keeps it alive. And
the cool thing about that kind of the Heroes game is that it combines. Or like Dota or any of those games, it combines both like mechanical skills where you need to know how to control your hero and be fast, still have like fast reflexes, be able to aim, and it's all about timing in that game. Yeah. With a lot of the spells or like predicting where your opponent's gonna be in like 3 seconds. So you can aim, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it is a really good combination of action and
it also adds like a lot of like theory strategy where it's all about like what talents should you pick, what compositions are gonna work well together, what teams are gonna be facing.
Yep.
If your opponent has this kind of combination, how can you counter that sort of thing. So I don't know. Yep. It's a really cool game that combines a lot of different strategy aspects.
Totally, and something that I think it really attests to is that like. Something that's an action game doesn't mean it's not a strategy game. Like, genres are very fluid, but I'm sure Billy would attest to the fact that there's a ton of strategy in Call of Duty, for example. Like, there's a lot of tactics you can be learning to play. Oh yeah, games.
Absolutely. I used to play Call of Duty 2 back in the day.
Right.
A little bit of Counter-Strike as well.
Oh, that was insane.
I've been getting back into first-person shooters, actually. I'm looking forward to Overwatch quite a bit.
Oh, totally. Like, there's going to be so much strategy in Overwatch. It's just a very different type.
In those games, there's a lot of strategy from the point where, like, what guns your teammates are choosing to what pathways they would take. I remember that when I used to play those games, we would watch VODs of the pro players because they were, like, very strategic positions where, for example, at the start of the match, you could memorize certain paths to throw your grenades. So you would, like, stand in a certain position, and I remember you would have to aim. You would aim against like certain props of the map, and you would throw the grenade, but you have to time it like right. So when the match started, you would like run to the spot, aim real fast, then wait like 5 seconds, then you would throw the grenade, and like if you aim at the right spot, the grenade would fall in one of the starting spots of your enemy, and it would likely kill 1 or 2 people.
Right.
And then the way you would block like certain entry points and stuff like that. There's definitely a lot of strategy to that game.
Yeah, I played Halo 3 online a lot, and like memorizing weapon locations, and there were lots of different elements you could employ. And I think that kind of leads me full circle to Hearthstone, in that I think what makes Hearthstone to me such a good strategy game is not the fact that it's complex. I think the reason it's a good strategy game is it reduces the elements to so few that you're able to think strategically about every single move. And something as broad as Call of Duty, not every step you take and every little shot you make can be fully strategic and thought out, just because you can't process that many things at once. But in Hearthstone, like, because of the pace the game plays out and the fairly like small amount of factors there to keep track of, you can like fully strategically think out every single part of that game, which kind of makes it more strategic than a lot of the more complex games.
Yeah, that's true. People. It's like a puzzle game sometimes.
Yeah,
where you're just sitting and thinking, trying to crack the puzzle. And I think that you're right. It's a lot more manageable, like RNG and stuff that you have to account for.
Right.
So I feel like that is what makes this game so appealing to such a diverse crowd, right? Like anybody can play this game, from like little kids to old people, just because it's so approachable.
Totally. And the fundamentals you learn from it, just how it teaches you to think and how you can analyze the meta, like you can then bring that into other strategy games. It's like such a good introduction to thinking strategically about games.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, if you guys have kids or something and thinking about getting into games, definitely into Hearthstone.
Oh, yes. So good. And it uses the digital aspect of it so well. That's why I still think it's blowing any other trading card game out of the water digitally, because it harnesses the fact that it's digital.
For sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a really good discussion. That was fun.
A little strategy game discussion.
Indeed. It almost wasn't even a mini episode.
Yeah, we almost talked for the whole hour.
Exactly. Awesome. All right, everyone. We didn't have any iTunes reviews this week, but you can find us on iTunes. Just search Hearthaholics. And if you feel inclined to leave us a review, hey, I won't complain. I'll even read it on the show. You can also email us at hearthaholics@gmail.com. We could definitely use more listener topics going forward. So yeah, guys, if you have anything you want to talk about, anything you want to ask us, even non-Hearthstone stuff, you just have you want to know what my favorite pizza is, I would be happy to tell you,
Pepperoni.
Yeah, don't give it away, Andres. We need to wait for the email.
Wait, is it pepperoni?
No, I think, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not pepperoni, though. You can also find us on Twitter at Hearthaholics, also on YouTube and Facebook, same name. We are a product of the Whales Are Whales network. So check out whalesareWhales.com. That is Whales, A-R-E, Whales.com to find out other awesome shows like this with other awesome people like us. And we went over the game nights we do for the Angry Chicken. So yeah, just check out their subreddit /TAC podcast for us to post about that there. And yeah, Andres, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. Be on the lookout for that if you want to be informed about game nights or other events that I've been hosting and doing. I usually post it in there. Also, check out my music in my website, massevemusic.com. You spell that MASSEVE music. You can check out the intro track to the show and a lot of other goodies over there.
Totally. Yes. It's really cool stuff. I highly recommend it. You can find me at Lord Meldor on Twitter. That is LORDMELDORR. And all my other stuff is on Whales Are Whales. And Billy, I'm going to give him a plug even though he isn't here. He is Fanatic Billy on Twitter. So that is FANATIC Billy on Twitter. And yeah, he should be back next week. I really hope. But time will tell. And until then, everyone, you have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.
Let the hunt begin.